In a world increasingly drawn to spiritual awakening, we find ourselves surrounded by countless paths promising enlightenment. Among these, cannabis has emerged as what many consider a shortcut to higher consciousness. Just one hit, they say, and you'll feel connected to everything. This popular belief has created what might be the greatest spiritual deception of our modern age. The human soul yearns for evolution, a natural progression toward understanding, compassion, and unity with the divine. This journey has traditionally required discipline, practice, and conscious intention. Yet today, many believe certain substances can automatically elevate consciousness without the accompanying inner work. Cannabis, with its ability to alter perception and induce profound states of awareness, has become particularly mythologized in spiritual communities. The sensations of expanded thinking, heightened sensory experience, and dissolution of boundaries can create a compelling illusion of spiritual advancement. But is this sensation of evolution the same as actual soul growth? The truth lies deeper than most are willing to explore. When we bypass the necessary steps of spiritual development through external substances, we risk creating what renowned intuitive Cayce once described as borrowed consciousness, states that feel enlightened but lack the foundation of genuine inner transformation. Consider what happens when consciousness shifts under cannabis influence. The immediate sensations can be remarkable. Thoughts flow freely, creativity blossoms, and a sense of profound insight may emerge. These experiences feel meaningful because they temporarily lift us beyond our ordinary perception. But this is where the deception begins. True spiritual evolution isn't measured by how you feel in exceptional moments, but by who you become in everyday life. The expanded awareness that feels so liberating in the moment often fails to translate into lasting change once the effects wear off. Without integration, the conscious process of embodying insights into daily behavior, these experiences remain isolated events rather than stepping stones on the path of soul development. Many users find themselves caught in cycles of spiritual seeking that never quite manifest as spiritual finding. They chase the sensation of connection rather than developing the capacity for sustained presence. This pattern creates a peculiar trap. The more one uses cannabis to evolve, the more one reinforces the belief that evolution requires an external catalyst. This isn't to suggest cannabis has no place in spiritual exploration. Rather, it's the unconscious approach, the assumption that the plant automatically elevates the soul, that creates the deception. When used without clarity of intention, without preparation of the mind and heart, and without integration of the experience, cannabis can actually impede spiritual progress by creating an illusion of advancement. The most troubling aspect of this deception is how it can stall genuine growth. Why engage in challenging shadow work when a substance offers temporary relief from inner tension? Why develop the discipline of meditation when altered states are available through simpler means? The path of least resistance rarely leads to the heights of consciousness we aspire to reach. What we're discussing isn't simply about cannabis. It's about our relationship with consciousness itself. Do we approach our spiritual evolution with patience, discernment, and commitment to inner work? Or do we seek shortcuts that feel profound but may leave us circling the same spiritual territory for years? As we explore this complex relationship between plant consciousness and human development, we must ask ourselves, are we using these experiences as genuine catalysts for growth or as substitutes for the work required to truly transform? The answer lies not in judgment, but in honest self-reflection. Cannabis doesn't introduce anything new to your consciousness. It reveals what already exists within you. This fundamental truth challenges the common misconception that the plant somehow infuses wisdom or spiritual insight from external sources. Instead, it functions as a powerful mirror, reflecting aspects of your inner landscape that may normally remain hidden beneath the surface of everyday awareness. When you engage with cannabis, you're essentially engaging with yourself, your fears, desires, unresolved emotions, creative potential, and spiritual yearnings. The plant doesn't create these elements. It simply alters your perception enough to bring them into focus. This mirroring effect explains why different individuals can have radically different experiences with the same substance. The plant doesn't determine the content of your experience. Your own consciousness does. Consider how cannabis often amplifies whatever mental and emotional state you bring to the experience. Enter the experience with anxiety, and that anxiety may intensify. Approach with joy, and that joy might expand. This amplification reveals a crucial truth. Cannabis shows you what needs to be seen, not necessarily what you want to feel. This distinction marks the difference between using the plant as a tool for genuine self-discovery versus using it as an escape. The mirror metaphor extends beyond emotions to include deeper aspects of consciousness. Those who report profound spiritual insights while using cannabis aren't receiving new information from the plant itself. They're accessing parts of their own spiritual understanding that remained dormant or unrecognized in ordinary states of awareness. The plant temporarily shifts perception enough to allow these insights to surface, but the wisdom was always within. This mirroring quality creates both opportunity and risk. The opportunity lies in conscious engagement with what the mirror reveals. When you recognize that cannabis is showing you aspects of yourself rather than bestowing external gifts, you can approach the experience with greater intentionality. Instead of passively receiving whatever arises, you can actively engage with your reflections, asking, what part of myself am I seeing now? What does this reflection reveal about my inner landscape? The risk emerges when we misinterpret the mirror as a source rather than a reflection. Many users attribute their insights, creativity, or spiritual experiences to the plant itself, creating dependency on an external substance for access to what are actually innate human capacities. This misattribution can lead to a diminished sense of agency in one's spiritual development, a belief that evolution requires chemical assistance rather than conscious intention. Perhaps most significantly, the mirror of cannabis reflects not only what is present in your consciousness, but also what is absent. The gaps in your understanding, the undeveloped aspects of your awareness, and the imbalances in your spiritual practice all become more apparent when reflected through this altered perception. These revelations can be uncomfortable precisely because they challenge self-conceptions and highlight areas needing growth. Unlike some spiritual practices that gradually build capacity through consistent discipline, cannabis can suddenly thrust you into confrontation with aspects of yourself you might not be prepared to face. Without proper integration frameworks, these encounters can become overwhelming rather than enlightening. The mirror shows truth, but truth without compassion and context can be disorienting rather than liberating. Understanding cannabis as a mirror rather than a source empowers more conscious engagement with the plant. Rather than approaching it as something that gives you what you lack, you recognize it as something that reveals what you already possess, both the light and shadow aspects of your consciousness. This shift in perspective transforms how you relate to the experience, moving from passive consumption to active self-inquiry. The mirror quality extends to spiritual bypassing as well. If you're using cannabis to avoid certain emotions or challenges, the plant often eventually reflects this avoidance back to you, sometimes intensifying the very discomfort you sought to escape. This paradoxical effect serves as a built-in correction mechanism, pushing consciousness toward greater wholeness rather than fragmentation. As you contemplate your relationship with cannabis, consider what reflections you've encountered in its mirror. What aspects of yourself have you recognized? What patterns have been revealed? And perhaps, most importantly, how have you engaged with these reflections once the immediate experience subsides? The answers reveal not what cannabis has given you, but what it has shown you about yourself, the true value of any mirror. Beyond the physical and psychological impacts of cannabis lies a dimension rarely discussed in mainstream conversations: its effects on your energetic frequency. Every living being vibrates at specific frequencies, creating what mystics and energy workers recognize as your unique energetic signature. This vibrational pattern influences not only your physical well-being, but also your emotional states, mental clarity, and spiritual connection. Cannabis consumption initiates a distinct shift in this vibrational frequency. When introduced to your system, the plant's compounds interact with your body's endocannabinoid receptors, But this biological explanation only addresses the surface level of a much deeper energetic interaction. The relationship between cannabis and human energy systems extends to the subtle anatomy, your aura, chakras, and energetic pathways that traditional medicine acknowledges as fundamental to holistic health. With repeated use, cannabis can create persistent alterations in your energy field. These changes may initially feel expansive. Many users report sensations of their aura extending beyond normal boundaries, colors becoming more vivid in their energy field, or feeling more open to cosmic energies. However, this expansion isn't always synonymous with elevation. An expanded energy field that lacks proper boundaries can become vulnerable to energetic influences that might not serve your highest development. The chakra system, those 7 primary energy centers aligning from the base of your spine to the crown of your head, responds particularly sensitively to cannabis. Many users notice immediate activation of the third eye, 6th chakra, associated with intuition and inner vision. This activation can create profound experiences of insight and heightened perception. Simultaneously, the root chakra, which grounds you to physical reality and provides stability, often experiences diminished energy flow. This imbalance, overactivation of upper chakras with underactivation of lower ones, creates a top-heavy energy system that struggles to integrate spiritual insights into material existence. This energetic restructuring explains why long-term cannabis users sometimes report feeling ungrounded or disconnected from practical realities despite having access to seemingly profound spiritual insights. Without balanced chakra activation, the wisdom channeled through upper centers cannot find expression through the manifestation capacities of the lower centers. True spiritual evolution requires integration across all energy centers, not just activation of those associated with higher consciousness. The concept of energetic frequency becomes particularly significant when considering interdimensional connections. Various wisdom traditions suggest that consciousness exists across multiple dimensions simultaneously, with our ordinary awareness focused primarily on the physical dimension. Cannabis appears to temporarily adjust the frequency at which consciousness operates, potentially facilitating awareness of subtler dimensional realities, typically filtered out during normal waking consciousness. This frequency shift explains why many users report sensing presences, receiving information from seemingly external sources, or experiencing reality from perspectives beyond their ordinary self-concept. These experiences reflect consciousness temporarily operating at frequencies that permit perception of dimensions normally inaccessible to the physical senses. However, this expanded perception comes with important considerations about discernment and protection. When your energy field operates at altered frequencies without proper preparation or protection, you may become receptive to energetic influences that wouldn't normally penetrate your auric boundaries. Just as opening the doors to your home allows both welcome and unwelcome guests to enter, shifting your energetic frequency without conscious intention can create vulnerabilities in your subtle anatomy. This explains why some cannabis experiences feel intrusive or leave users feeling energetically depleted rather than enhanced. The vibrational relationship between cannabis and human energy systems isn't inherently positive or negative, it's contextual. Factors including your baseline energetic health, intention, setting, and integration practices all influence whether these frequency alterations serve your evolution or create imbalance. Using cannabis while energetically depleted, emotionally fragmented, or spiritually disconnected tends to amplify these conditions rather than heal them. Perhaps most significantly, consistent cannabis use establishes new default frequency patterns in your energy field. Your subtle anatomy adapts to repeated exposure, potentially creating dependency at the energetic level that extends beyond physical or psychological habituation. Your energy body becomes accustomed to operating at cannabis-influenced frequencies, making it challenging to maintain clear connection to spiritual dimensions without the substance. This adaptation can actually limit rather than expand your natural capacity for multidimensional awareness. Understanding these energetic dynamics invites more conscious engagement with cannabis if you choose to use it. Practices that support energetic hygiene, meditation, grounding exercises, chakra balancing, and auric clearing become essential companions to plant work rather than optional additions. These practices help maintain coherence in your energy field during frequency shifts, reducing vulnerability while enhancing integration of the experiences into your overall energetic blueprint. As you consider your relationship with cannabis, recognize that every encounter leaves an imprint on your subtle anatomy. These energetic effects, though invisible to ordinary perception, may be the most significant aspect of how the plant influences your spiritual evolution, either supporting or hindering your soul's journey, depending on how consciously you navigate the vibrational terrain it opens before you. The concept of portals extends beyond physical doorways into realms of consciousness itself. When cannabis shifts your energetic frequency, it doesn't merely alter perception. It temporarily opens doorways between dimensions of reality that normally remain separate during ordinary awareness. These non-physical portals represent one of the most profound and potentially consequential aspects of cannabis interaction with human consciousness. Unlike the controlled environment of traditional spiritual practices, where portal opening follows specific protocols and protections, cannabis-induced portals often activate spontaneously and without the user's conscious direction. This spontaneity creates a fundamental vulnerability. You may find yourself standing at thresholds between worlds without proper preparation for what lies beyond, or what might cross through into your consciousness from the other side. These interdimensional openings explain why many users report sensing presences, receiving downloads of information, or experiencing reality shifts that feel external rather than internally generated. The portals aren't metaphorical. They represent actual shifts in the energetic boundaries that typically separate various planes of consciousness. The sensation of something coming through that many users describe reflects this porosity between dimensions that cannabis temporarily establishes. The critical question isn't whether these portals open. Evidence suggests they do for many users, but rather what enters through them and whether you maintain sovereignty during these exchanges. Without established discernment practices, these openings can allow energetic influences that may not serve your highest evolution. The feeling of not being alone in your consciousness during cannabis experiences often reflects actual encounters with non-physical consciousness rather than mere imagination. True soul evolution requires not just openness to expanded states, but wisdom about navigating them. The spiritual traditions that have worked with plant medicines throughout history understood this principle, which is why indigenous practices surrounding cannabis and other consciousness-altering plants always included specific protocols for protection, guides who maintained energetic boundaries, and integration practices to properly close portals after ceremonial use. Modern casual use typically lacks these safeguards, creating situations where portals remain partially open after the immediate effects subside. This incomplete closing can create ongoing energetic leakage, where influences continue affecting your consciousness in subtle ways, long after you believe the experience has ended. The persistent thought patterns, emotional shifts, or behavioral changes that sometimes follow cannabis use often reflect these lingering portal effects rather than the direct action of the plant itself. The integration between intention and ritual creates the context for whether these portals serve evolution or create confusion. When approached with clear purpose, appropriate preparation, and conscious closing practices, these doorways can facilitate genuine insights and evolutionary leaps. Without these elements, they more commonly lead to spiritual disorientation, a sense of having accessed something significant, but being unable to translate it into transformative understanding. True soul evolution follows a natural progression that all wisdom traditions recognize: awakening, purification, illumination, and unification. Cannabis can potentially catalyze moments in each of these stages, but it cannot replace the developmental work required to stabilize these states. The mistake many make is confusing temporary portal access with permanent evolutionary advancement. The former happens instantaneously, the latter requires integration over time. This brings us to the most essential truth about cannabis and spiritual evolution. The plant may serve as a catalyst, but never a substitute, for the foundations of genuine spiritual development. These foundations, disciplined practice, ethical refinement, emotional processing, shadow integration, and direct connection with divine consciousness, remain non-negotiable requirements for authentic soul advancement, regardless of what substances one may use along the journey. The most elevated relationship with cannabis emerges when you recognize both its potential contributions and inherent limitations. As a tool for occasionally illuminating blind spots, providing new perspectives on stubborn patterns, or temporarily lifting veils between dimensions of consciousness, it offers unique possibilities. As a replacement for the moment-by-moment presence, conscious choice-making, and integrative practices that constitute the actual path of awakening, it inevitably disappoints. This nuanced understanding allows for a relationship with the plant that neither demonizes nor idealizes its role in spiritual unfoldment. Cannabis, like any plant ally, carries specific intelligence and gifts. The wisdom lies not in rejecting these gifts, but in receiving them within the proper context, one that honors both the plant's power and the unique requirements of human spiritual evolution. As you navigate your own relationship with consciousness exploration, remember that the most profound portals ultimately open not through external catalysts, but through the internal alchemy of your own dedicated spiritual practice. External substances may occasionally illuminate aspects of these inner doorways, but the keys to permanently accessing them reside within your own consciousness. The journey of soul evolution continues long after any substance-induced experience fades. It unfolds in how you integrate insights, transform patterns, refine character, and deepen connection with the divine through daily choices and consistent practice. Cannabis may occasionally illuminate aspects of this path, but walking it remains your own sacred responsibility, one that no plant, however powerful, can undertake for you. In the end, the most profound truth about cannabis and spiritual evolution may be this: the plant reveals not just aspects of consciousness, but your relationship with consciousness itself. How you approach, use, integrate, and ultimately transcend any external catalyst reflects the very nature of your soul's evolutionary journey. In this reflection lies perhaps the plant's greatest gift, a mirror not just of who you are, but of how you grow. If this exploration of cannabis and spiritual evolution resonated with you, take a moment now to subscribe to this channel. Your spiritual awakening deserves genuine guidance, not just comfortable illusions. Drop a comment sharing your own experiences with plant medicine and consciousness. What revelations have shaped your path? What struggles have you faced? Your story might be exactly what another seeker needs to hear. Hit that notification bell to join our community of conscious explorers committed to authentic spiritual growth beyond quick fixes and easy answers. The truth about your soul's evolution awaits in our next conversation.